Ironman Texas race fans. This is Ryan Falkenrath here, set to pace Triathlon.com, and we're doing a little video. We're going to talk about Ironman Texas. We're talking about specifically about the run and my recommended workouts on how to best get prepared for the run course. Step number one, make sure you're prepared for the bike course. So if you're not prepared to get through the bike, 112 miles out in Texas, outside of Houston, could be hot, could be windy, probably some headwinds, some side winds, crosswinds. So if you're not prepared to get through that 112 miles, and on the other end of it, still have juice to go and do 26.2 miles, regardless where it's at, you're not going to get very far in the run. But let's say that you are trained up for the bike, you're ready for it, you've tackled it, now you're on to the run. What workouts would I recommend to get through the run course? So you can see here on the background, I've got Ironman Texas run course pulled up, and as you can see, it is a 3-loop course around Lake Woodlands. There's really nothing sophisticated about it. It's pretty straightforward. Now, the loops around the turnaround point and the finish line, you got to make sure you pay attention, know where you're going, follow the signs, and you really shouldn't get lost. But the key points are to know, usually in the North Shore Park is where the special needs bag pickup is, and then just know where the water stations are. And once you go through one loop, you pretty much figure out where they are. So usually they keep them about 1 to 2 miles apart. And, since it's a 3-loop course, you're going to hit them probably every mile. So really, you should be able to live off the course, especially in the day and age of COVID and pandemics. They're still going to keep them stocked up. They're just not going to have people hand it off to you. So you'll be kind of up to you to walk over to the table and get what you need and walk off. Whereas in the past, they'd have volunteers kind of handing the stuff, but there'll probably be less hands-on stuff as far as volunteers. But so really, aid stations, nutrition, hydration, everything should be there. But the key is going to be getting through the run course, and I want to draw your attention to the elevation gain total of 26.2 miles is 493 feet. So there will be some sharp little climbs as you're going through the loops, but, in the grand scheme of things, 500 feet of gain over 26.2 miles is that's pretty flat. So what I'm telling athletes that I've written up plans for, that are training for Ironman Texas, that I'm coaching, really when you're going to be out there in the run, the key is going to be to find that sweet spot where you're kind of in your race pace tempo, wherever you want to call it, zone 3. You're not really getting out of there. You're not getting into zone 4, because you don't go out there like, oh, this is flat and I can just go out and kill it and mow it down and run as fast as I can. You do that, you get through 2 loops, and you're going to be walking the 3rd loop. So the key is going to be to really find that pace, find that rhythm that keeps you in zone 3 and is able to get you to the aid stations so you can make sure you get nutrition, hydration, and you get through the 26.2 miles. There's really no hills to really train for. You don't really do much hill work. Early on, I sprinkle in some strength-type runs, some hill work, and that type of stuff. But really, when you get into the meat of the race-specific plan for Ironman Texas, you're going to get into a lot of what I call tempo and race pace efforts. So pulled up here in the background. So this one is just an example. This was what you might see on the high end. The total run will be about 8.759 miles. So really there's a little quarter-mile warm-up. And then you go through and you do 2 repeats of 4 miles each. In between each, you take a little 0.125 mile respite where you dial it down just a little bit and then go back out and hit it. So as I'm planning on athletes, this starts really small. Maybe you do mile repeats, and you target 4 miles. So each mile you do it, and you take a break. So the break's a little bit longer. So as you get through, the time and tempo is a little bit longer, the break's a little bit shorter. And then at the crescendo of the plan, you're out here doing an 8-mile tempo run. Actually, it's kind of 4 miles, and it's 2 repeats of 4 miles with a little bitty time in between, dialing it down just a little bit. Because really in training, you don't really need to go out there and kill yourself. You just make sure you're prepared over time, because you are doing your long runs are going to be key. If you're not doing your long runs, you're not going to be ready for it. You got to do your long bike rides. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. This is why I'm focusing on the race pace and tempo effort runs. So this right here is kind of the meat and potatoes of what I would recommend for Ironman Texas athletes trying to get ready for that run. You just go through and you find your sweet spot. If you notice, I've got the threshold heart rate as the metric, and I'm about 91%. So I'm pushing you up to the edge of zone 3. I really don't want to see you too far into zone 4. And then the easy pace is 85% of your threshold heart rate, not your max, your threshold. So you're pushing it. But on race day, you might have to push it a little bit harder when you're out there on a training run to get into the kind of the zone 3. But I want your body working hard, because on race day, you're already going to be worn out from your 112-mile bike ride. So when you get out there, it's going to be probably pretty easy to push yourself in that zone 3. But that pace is going to be the difference. Pace in training is probably going to be a little quicker than the pace on race day. So on race day, you're probably already going to push up the heart rate pretty quick, and you may be 1 to 2 miles or 2 minutes per mile off what you were in training. So the key is we're measuring it by heart rate. So make sure in your training, because if you just pick a pace and you want to try to nail it, to hit that pace on race day, you may be at zone 4 or creeping into zone 5. I want to hit 9 minutes per mile no matter what, and then you just run yourself into the ground, and you're not going to make it through the race, and it's not going to be a very pleasant experience. But if you go through your training and your zone 3 tops out at 155, 160 beats per minute, that's what your target is on race day. You go out there and you nail that 160 beats per minute, maybe 1 to 2 minutes per mile slower. So just be ready for that. But as long as you keep that heart rate and you don't peg it through that entire run, because again, 3 loops and it's pretty flat for the most part. There's a few little climbs, but 500 feet over 26.2 miles. Really, you're not going to have a situation where you're going to be up and down hills. It's not like it's on a golf course like Indian Wells 70.3. That was just a constant up and down. It's not like that at all, especially when you get a backside here on this main thoroughfare. It's pretty flat. So you just need to find that perfect pace, set your heart rate, set it right there, and just run. If you get over a little bit, slow it down a little bit, dial it down. There's no reason to be in a hurry, especially in that first loop. Kind of find your zone, find your paces. And really, as long as you practice this in training, you get out there and do your race pace, race effort, whatever you want to call it, zone 3 work, tempo work. This is what's going to get you through on race day, to really see what you need to do to get that heart rate zone, and then to kind of train yourself to make sure you're monitoring that heart rate and staying in that zone 3. Again, as you go through your training, that zone 3 may be changing. You know, if you do assessments every 3 to 4 weeks, as you gain fitness, those zones may change a little bit. So you may be able to push it a little bit harder on race day than when you first started doing your tempo work. So make sure that you're going through, you're doing your assessments, you're finding your fitness levels, you're finding your zones, and then on race day, stay in those zones as best as possible. Now, I will say my Phoenix 6 optical heart rate, right now it's a little bumped. They're working on a fix. So have your heart rate strap. Because if your watch is 10 to 20 beats higher per minute, because it's not getting good, accurate readings, that's going to throw you off on race day. Now, that might be good. It kind of slows you down a little bit. But if you want to push the envelope, make sure you're wearing your chest strap if you're going by heart rate. So just make sure that you're getting the most accurate data. So if you're training by heart rate, if you're using the heart rate strap, you're going to get pretty accurate data. At this point in time, Garmin's still working on making some changes and updates to the optical heart rate sensors and software on your watches. So just be careful with that. Be mindful. But again, tempo work is, I think, going to make or break your day out there in IRONMAN Texas. It goes without saying you need to be ready for that bike ride. So when you get off the bike ride, you have as much energy as possible to get through the run. Make sure you're only 2 to 3% dehydrated. And then you should be able to find your zone 3 tempo limit and just go around those loops and chug them out and then hit the finish line. That's my recommendation. If you want any fit files or anything like that, just give me a ping. I got them on my site. I'll share them with you gladly, just so you have some examples of what to do out there. I got plans for IRONMAN Texas out there. I got them in Training Peaks. I got them in Final Surge. They're all out there. If you got any questions, put them in the comments. Send me an email. Drop me a line. Smoke signals, wherever you got. And happy training out there, and we'll see you out on race day.